Today's episode is brought to you by Altoids because, let's face it, navigating the dating world isn't easy, but with Altoids, your breath will be stronger than the urge to text.
You up at 1 a.m. More intense than a rose ceremony and more reliable than your bestie's questionable dating tips.
Like, do the simple things. Make sure that you have fresh breath wherever you go, and you got to do it with Altoids. Altoids is your sidekick in dating. Do yourself a favor and make sure that you have fresh breath. There is no bigger turnoff than stale, stinky, rotten breath.
It's also so easy because I feel like with gum, you always either, hey, I've like a wrapper you got to throw away, or you're like, the gum gets nasty and you're like, where can I throw this gum away? With an Altoid, it's just so easy to throw in your bag, so easy to just dissolve in your mouth, chew it up, fresh breath immediately.
Altoids is the strong, reliable, and intense boost of freshness that young professionals and single minglers need to be their authentic selves in daily life. When walking into a high-stakes moment, if you have Altoids, your breath is one less thing you have to think about. When it comes to needing confidence and security to show up as your original self, Altoids has you covered.
They're not just mints, they're curiously strong mints.
Find Altoids in the checkout aisles. Grab your 10 today. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Viall Files Ask Nick edition. I am your host, Nick, joined by sweet boy Justin. Scooter is off to motherland. Her maternity leave has begun. We are recording this before we've gotten word on if there is a new baby into this world. But
she could be listening.
By the time you're listening, I believe the little guy is here.
Yeah. I mean, she could be listening to this in the delivery room right now.
Hi, Leia. If you're listening, we love you. We miss you. Scooter is off being a mom, but we have a great week lined up for you, an amazing episode of callers lined up for you as well. But before we do, I think Justin has a writer-inner.
I do. We have a writer-inner who has the tagline, "Boyfriend has STI." She's 24 years old, and she writes in saying, I recently started seeing a new guy who told me he has HPV and had genital warts in college. Okay. I know HPV can be common, but I am concerned about contracting the genital warts. If I did contract it, would that make me less desirable in future relationships? If a guy heard I had genital warts in the past, would he immediately decide not to pursue a relationship with me? And would I be looked at as dirty? A lot of my friends have said I should stop seeing this guy. I'm conflicted because I'm hopeful for where it can go. Looking forward to see what you have to say.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Well, the obvious answer is if you keep hooking up with them, you will run the risk of contracting it. Listen, if you participate in hookup culture, you run the risk of contracting HPV. There seems to be a lot of medical advancements. Is there a shot? Is there a vaccine available for it now? I don't know. I mean, I feel like there has been advancements, so maybe talk to your doctor. I would talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
For more than anything. And maybe you just talk to your doctor before you keep hooking up with him. If you're participating in hookup culture, which is, again, to say that you are having sex with people you barely know, and by barely know, I mean you've known them less than 6 months, HPV is more common than not. Mm-hmm. And most people who have HPV don't know they have HPV, is my understanding. And additionally to that, I'm of the impression that unless a man has genital warts, there's no way to confirm a man is a carrier of HPV. Is that, I think I'm right about that. I could be wrong, probably because I'm not a doctor. Can you test in men for HPV is the question. Because there's like a million different strains, or tons of different strains of HPV.
As of February 2024, there's no approved screening test for HPV in men.
There you go. So most men, you can't screen for HPV in men. The fact that he knows he's a carrier of HPV is because he had genital warts. But there are so many more men out there who are carriers that could give you HPV. Now, I'm of the impression or of the understanding, again, I could be wrong, not a doctor, there's several different strains of HPV, most of which don't actually cause genital warts, but his does. So that is a bigger risk with him. Has he dealt with it? I don't know. There's no cure for it, right? Or he said he had it in college?
He said he had it in college.
What does that mean?
And she's 24 now, so if we assume he's around her age, then they're like fresher out of college. Give her more like 2 years.
I think she needs to talk to her doctor.
Yeah.
Step one, understand what your risks are for hooking up with someone with HPV. I don't love the idea she's just breaking up with him because he was honest with her about a diagnosis that, again, most men just don't know that they are carriers. That being said, since he knows his particular strand of HPV allowed him to contract genital warts, it's definitely more of a risk. I mean, knowing that none of us are experts in HPV on this call, let's just make this conversation more about like STDs, STIs in general, and things like herpes, HPV. These are unfortunately very common things that more people have than I think people realize. HPV and herpes are viruses that are, I think a lot of people, if you contract them, you don't necessarily have a reaction that make it obvious that you are a carrier.
Undetected.
Yeah, it can go undetected. It would be, I think it's tough. I get why her friends are telling her just to move on, but what if you just, listen, how much do you like this guy? What do you know about him?
I was going to say, she wrote in with the headline saying boyfriend. Then she says, I'm seeing the guy. Then she said, her questions are, well, if I'm not in this relationship in the future.
Well, I mean, I see that as like she recognizes she's only 24 and whether this guy becomes her boyfriend or not, she doesn't know for sure whether it's going to be her husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
She likes him. She doesn't really know much about him, right? What if you just didn't have sex for a while? Actually get to know the person, make it less about sex. Talk to your doctor, understand your risks. I don't really know. I don't know what risk she has of contracting it or how much her risks reduce if they use condoms. Maybe there's certain medication that she could be on. I don't know. Maybe there is some sort of vaccine that protects her, or maybe the risks are incredibly high that she would contract this, So understand your risk from a medical standpoint and talk to your doctor or your OBGYN. Don't talk to your friends. Don't listen to us about that stuff. But in general, I think it's a little short-sighted to eliminate anyone who has contracted an STI. Given how prevalent STIs are these days, especially ones like HPV and herpes, and if you're going to participate in hookup culture, you could end the relationship with this guy and a couple of years later be out dating a guy for a couple of weeks, decide to hook up. You think you know everything about him. He has no idea he's a carrier of whatever it is, and you could contract an STI that way. Knowing that he actually has an STI actually makes her safer, at least with him, because again, I'm not sure what your doctor is going to tell you, but like she can go into this far more prepared and practice as much safe sex as possible with this guy. So I don't think immediately break up, find out what you care, if you care about this guy. I think it's a little short-sighted to eliminate people who have STIs and who are honest about it. Like, everyone deserves love. And I think people can have very successful relationships.
Yeah. It is a plus too that he told her. So you can at least trust him to that extent.
Yeah, you got a trustworthy guy here. A guy who wants to be honest with you. He could easily have not have told you. And sadly, I think a lot of people in his position wouldn't. Because other than, again, the fact that he noticed a genital wart is the only reason why he knows he has HPV, because you can't test men for it. And so, like, you could be dating, that's the thing. It's just like, it's entirely possible too. Like, she could go to the doctor right now. She could test for HPV and she could come back positive. And her doctor would be like, there's no way to know if you got it from him or someone else, unless it was the actual specific strain that they could test for. Because it is so hard to detect and it's impossible to detect in men and things can stay dormant. Again, this is my understanding. I'm not a doctor, but I think a lot of what I'm saying is fairly accurate. So I think it's a bit short-sighted. I think if you like the guy, have a conversation with your doctor, stop having sex with him, to say, I really, and thank him for his honesty. But like, I want to understand more about this. I want to talk to my doctor. I really care about you. I want to get to know you as a person, and let's just move forward and maybe slow down on the physical side of things for now and get to know him. You might fall more in love with him. And if you do, then it's really maybe worth being in a relationship with this guy despite this diagnosis that he has. You're not eliminating your risk of getting HPV by ending it with him and continuing to participate in hookup culture with a bunch of men who have no idea whether they have HPV or not. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, though. I think we're just really misinformed when it comes to this type of stuff. And I think we have this desire to want to have sex with anyone we want whenever we want to, but sometimes maybe we just have to Maybe it's a blessing. I don't know. Maybe it's a blessing that you are going to be forced to get to know this guy.
She's excited to see where it goes. So
yeah, if you're
stay with
when
that.
was the last time you? Yeah, if she can say she's excited to see where this relationship goes, then see where it goes. You don't have to be all that physical right now. Talk to your doctor, understand your risks, and go from there. I think there's still a relationship potentially to be had here. All right. Well, before we get to our callers, don't forget to send in your questions at AskNick@theViallFiles.com for all things Ask Nick. Texting office hours, you know the drill. We are back tomorrow for another groundbreaking episode of Reality Recap. It's jam-packed fun. Don't forget to tune into that. And then again on Thursday. Also, if you are looking for your updates, our update specials are behind Viall Files Plus. We got a ton of updates for you. So if you feel like you're missing out on those updates, go to viallfiles.com to sign up. It's a 7-day free trial. You will not regret it. All right, let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Hey, I'm Nicoletta. I am 30. So my ex-fiance's mom died from cancer, and I'm wondering if I should reach out.
Okay, convince me you should reach out.
I think that's where I keep going back and forth in my head is I don't really have a solid reason to 100% want to reach out.
All right, maybe let's start with what are your concerns for reaching out?
Yeah, my concerns for reaching out is the engagement ended on relatively bad terms. It could have been worse, but I was the one who ended things.
All right.
And he had a pretty difficult time with things ending, which is super valid. And so my concern is that by reinserting myself into his life, it would be an unwelcome presence. And especially within such a difficult time where he's grieving, I wonder, and it raises the question of could it potentially incite harm?
How long ago did you guys break up?
It was in September of 2022.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
Have you had, and when was the last time you spoke?
November of 2022. And that was predominantly for logistics. So things like me returning the ring and making sure things were squared away on that end.
What, other than knowing his mom passed, what do you know about like what's going on in his life?
I don't know a lot. I've really just seen what's on social media, which is, as we're all pretty aware, is a really one-sided kind of situation. From what I understand, he's still at the same job, which when we were together was one of the things that he actually was hoping to get out of. He was hoping to switch from hospitality into tech, but he's still in the same position. He was hoping to move. He's still in the same town. I'm assuming that has to do with his mom's cancer diagnosis and wanting to be around for her treatments and whatnot. I have been a part of his mom's Facebook support group that they had up and running for people in her life to keep her posted on the cancer diagnostics and chemo treatments as they kept on getting more updates and as she progressed through her chemo treatments. She was actually diagnosed when he and I were together. It was actually during our first breakup, and I had actually flown down there to work things out. And it was when I was down there that she had gotten the diagnosis. And it was in part that diagnosis, and he was able to see how I was supporting him through that almost convinced him that he could see us having like a mutually supportive relationship, because up until that point, he was doing a lot of support for me.
Why?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had really been struggling with some pretty severe mental health diagnoses. I was doing some mental health treatment programs and whatnot. And his support actually helped encourage me to like reach out for help with those, which was pretty cool. So he had been kind of this really strong pillar in my life. And it's part of the reason why I have so much like incredible gratitude for him and our relationship and everything. But he did kind of take on a lot while I was going through a lot of that initial treatment and just supporting me in that way.
Why did you break up with him?
Even when we were together early on, things didn't feel as much as he was supportive of me and as much as I knew that he loved me and cared for me. I was never sure that my feelings were entirely reciprocated.
What do you mean by you don't feel like your feelings were like you felt stronger for him than you felt like he felt for you?
I felt like it was the opposite.
Okay.
I felt like he loved me a lot more than I loved him.
Okay.
And in some ways,
All right. Well, did you
there's
love
no
him?
question that I loved him.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely
Well,
loved
I guess
him.
I guess it's I guess different for everyone, but I guess how much someone loves someone else is I guess a matter of perspective and hard to say, who loves who more in a relationship, as long as you both feel like you love each other. But what was it about his feelings towards you that I guess felt wrong or didn't add up, right? Because if you knew you loved him on its own, it doesn't, right? Like you understand that it doesn't make sense to say, well, I know I loved him, but ultimately I felt like he loved me more. So I felt like we couldn't be together.
Yeah, I think the type of love that it was
Okay.
is the difference. So I know that I loved him, and it took me a little bit to figure out what the kind of love that I felt towards him was. We had been really close friends for several years before we entered into a romantic relationship. And I think I felt a really more comprehensive level of like this I don't know if you're familiar with like this agape love, but this like really full bodied like appreciation for him as a human being kind of love. Whereas his for me was this like romantic partner, like one that you would more traditionally expect to see within a romantic relationship.
How was your physical connection or your sex life and things like that? I mean, does it ultimately come down to that, or you just saw him more as a friend?
Yeah, that was a relatively difficult thing for me. Yeah, I definitely I don't want to say that I saw him as a friend because it felt like a level above friendship, but the sexual attraction wasn't necessarily there for me as much in the same way. And that definitely became an issue, especially towards the end of our
Okay.
relationship.
How are you dating now?
I am dating, yes.
But
But just
single?
going on dates. I
Just
don't
going on
have a
dates. Okay.
partner. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, listen, I don't really have a clear answer for you. What does your gut tell you in terms of how he will receive your message? Like if you had to make a guess.
Oh my gosh, my gut. Um, I don't know if I have an answer for that question. I think how I've been thinking about it is if the tables were turned, how I would feel.
Less productive of yeah, because you're not him. You broke up with him.
Right.
You
Yeah.
you can't relate to how he feels about you because you felt differently about him. Have you dealt with the loss of a parent?
Not the loss of a parent, and my family dynamics are a little bit different than
Yeah.
his. So
So I guess it's tough. You're gonna do more overthinking and get less clear answers by trying to compare. As much as like, listen, I think it's a great exercise in general, especially when it comes to trying to be empathetic towards someone to just try to put yourself in their shoes. But you're
mhm.
trying to put yourself in the shoes of a person you haven't spoke to in a couple years regarding a situation you can't specifically relate to, and knowing that you guys felt differently about one each other when things were over, you're kind of just guessing. But you do know the man, right? As long as it's been, and you do know how he reacts to different situations. And like when you date someone for a while, you just kind of can anticipate how they handle being triggered. And I guess that's why when I say like, what does your gut tell you, your instincts, like just kind of picturing him, reading this message, like what's the image that comes in your head of how he might react?
He's one of the kindest people ever and has the biggest heart. So I know he wouldn't respond with hatred in any way, but that's not necessarily what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about it causing distress on his end because I don't want to add any more of that to an already terrible situation.
When did his mom pass?
Less than a month ago.
Less than a month ago. Okay. Yeah, like so that if you would have said like last week, I've been like maybe give it some time. You don't have to be the first person to offer condolences, right? the good news is like if you decide not to reach out, right? Like don't give yourself too much credit. Obviously you were a big part of his life. Obviously your breakup affected him and it hurt him. But obviously the passing of a parent is significant and bad. And I'm guessing the first thing that's coming to his mind is, are you going to reach out? Like had you guys broken up a couple weeks ago, it would probably be the first thing on his mind. It would probably be how he deals with the loss of his mom by focusing his energy on whether his ex-girlfriend's going to have the courtesy to reach out, because it's like, and then part of it would be hope, right? Hope would be like him that part of like, I'm really going through it. I hope she feels sorry for me enough to give me another chance, things like that. If he was still dealing with the heartbreak, I'm going to assume he's not dealing with the heartbreak anymore. It's possible, who knows? If he's still dealing with it, that means he clearly hasn't dealt with it and there's nothing you could have done differently about it, right? But it's not raw. It's been a couple years, right? So if you opt not to reach out, which I think is a totally acceptable answer, just know that like it might one day cross his mind that you didn't reach out and he might feel a certain way about it, but ultimately it's not going to affect him all one way or the other. He might have an opinion about it, but that doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter what he thinks of you. I know we like people to think the best of us, but you have no idea what he's been thinking about you or of you the past 2 years, and ultimately hasn't affected your life one way or the other. If you do decide to reach out, your intention is to offer condolences, yes, and nothing more?
Yeah. I think the intention behind it is not even necessarily wanting a response, just like from one human to another to just genuinely express how sorry I am as someone who got to see how special of a person his mom was and to see how much as a family they loved each other.
Yeah. And I think that's great and beautiful. So if you were to respond, I guess, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I definitely don't think you have to. And you're right. If you do reach out, there is a possibility that it's going to affect him in a way that you would rather not affect him. But, it's been a while, And so just make sure a couple of and I don't think you will, and I don't think you need me to say this to you, but like, don't bring you two up. Don't make it anything about other than the passing of his mom. It's just like, hey, I'm assuming you'd like email him this or send a card. Are you thinking about calling? I wouldn't call.
I will probably text.
Okay.
Like a Facebook message. I don't know if I have his email. I guess I might be able to find it from his work.
No, honestly, text is probably the best. I'm just gonna, hey, Mike, Mike or what? I don't know. I'm so sorry for your loss. You know how wonderful I thought of your mother. She was such a beaming light. Whatever you want to say. And just really make it about his mom and just how much she will be missed and what she meant to, the world. I wouldn't even say what she meant to you because it almost will like bring back the reminder of you being a part of their lives. Mm-hmm. So it's just really like she was such a wonderful person. Keep it fairly basic and, kind of what anyone would say about someone passing and keep it really short. I wouldn't even say it's been a while or anything like that in terms of it's just, I wanted to reach out and just offer you because your mom's a very special lady and I am praying for you and your family, or something like that. But real basic, all about her, no references to you, both directly or indirectly to your guys' relationship. And that's all you can really do. How does that feel?
Yeah, if it feels good. I think reaching out does feel like something I want to do, like after sitting with it for a little bit and having a little bit of time to think on it, reaching out does feel good. But again, I keep on going back on whether or not, like, I don't want to make it seem like he is not incapable of moving on from the breakup. And I know that's not my responsibility to ensure people are able to move on. I just know he took it so hard. And I don't know, I get nervous about crossing that bridge again, I guess.
No, that makes sense. I don't know, maybe wait a couple months, I guess there's that. You could wait a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to obviously give you a perfect answer. You're just going to have to trust your instincts. It sounds like you want to reach out, and that makes a lot of sense because this is someone you knew who passed and you want to pay your respects and offer your condolences. And you don't want to pretend that this didn't happen. There's obviously like feelings involved and it's a sensitive topic, but he should really be okay. And as long as you don't say anything that could trigger him, there's no guarantee there, but he should have moved on by now. I have a hard time, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have a clear answer, but like, I can't promise you he's going to be okay. Right. And, I guess, cause you're just kind of painting this picture that like, you're worried, and I understand, like, you're worried that like, oh my God, his mom just died and I'm going to selfishly reach out. And then he just hearing from me is going to like be an extra fucking dagger in his heart. And I don't want to do that, but like, would he have known that he was in your mom's Facebook support group?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they forgot to kick me out after the breakup or I mean, I was a little nosy, so I kept myself in. And I say nosy in the sense that I genuinely was interested as people who were part of my life and wanted the updates since I wasn't having contact with them in any other way. But yeah, I'm not sure. I guess I assumed that there was some kind of oversight with that, but I don't know that for a fact. I think why I keep dwelling on the idea of it being this big deal about the relationship and me potentially being this other dagger is he just was very clear that I was like his first great love. Like I was the first person he had been in a relationship with. I was the first person that he had truly been in love with. And I know for me and for many others, those are difficult
to get over. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, but it's still been 2 years. I mean, that's a long time to not get over someone. And I'm not saying he's indifferent about you, but I think you're well-intentioned. I think you're not going to make it about you. And the fact that you were so self-conscious about it, like, I think, ultimately you're just going to have to trust your instincts. But it feels like not reaching out feels wrong to you. And that much you know.
Yeah, it does. There's something that feels a little bit disrespectful in that way as well.
I mean, what if you didn't text and sent a card? I only say that because I feel like a text is something like, text is a way you guys used to communicate, obviously, as most people do. He sees a text, he's going to see your name, and that will in itself, in theory, be triggering. It's like, oh shit. For a split second, he might have hope or whatever. Like, oh my God, his mom has passed like a little less than a month ago. So if you waited a couple of weeks, he might assume it's about your mom, but who knows? But like, there is a chance you could, and then you send a text like, hey, I'm so sorry, but it's specifically to you. We're almost like a card could be to the family. And again, I don't know how he's going to take it. He might be offended that you made it about his family and less about you. If he's still hoping to get back together with you in a weird way, it's going to be, he'll like, there'll be something about him that's kind of mad that that you didn't acknowledge the relationship. But again, I guess what I'm saying is it's been so long that you have to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's had the strength and ability to move on past this heartbreak. We don't know for sure. I understand you were his first love. I recognize that first loves are very hard to get over, but it has been 2 years. And I'd love to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's been capable of dealing with that loss and maybe just even kind of over it. Or maybe he's happy it didn't work out. I don't know. So we don't really know.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was a handful, so.
Maybe he realizes that. Yeah. It's entirely possible. But I guess if you were,
Right.
Again, sending a text would fine, but like sending a card is a little bit more formal. It's a little like it's making it about your mom. He opens the card, it's like if you send a card and it has your name on it, like I don't think he's gonna think you sent up a love letter. It's probably gonna be like they're gonna assume it's condolences. I don't know. Maybe that's a terrible idea, but I just feel like that is a way to make it about his mom and less about and that could be to the family less than to him.
I used to send our relationship was predominantly long distance, so I used to send them cards
Okay.
all the time. Do you think that makes a difference?
Not really.
Okay.
Actually, it makes me think you should definitely send a card then.
Okay.
When you say them, you mean his family or him?
Family and him. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it makes much of a difference. Could you send a card to his family? Yeah, like is his dad still in the picture? Or is his dad still alive? Or no?
Yeah. Yep.
How do you think he would take if you sent a card to his dad and not him?
That feels a little bit more overwhelming to me because I never got any closure with the family.
Gotcha.
Like I never got to say
yeah.
goodbye to the mom, dad, sister after the breakup. My ex-fiance was the only person that I had any source of goodbye with.
I kind of like the idea of sending a card. I don't know. I don't think there's any perfect way, and I think this is all based off of a lot of unknowns. I don't think a text is a bad way either. I think whatever feels the most natural to you, you just have to decide to do it and not worry about how he might respond. And let's just give him the benefit of the doubt that he was able to move on in the past 2 years. Yeah, I just think if your gut tells you it's the right thing to do, then you should just follow and trust your gut. I think the fact that you are trying to be as considerate as possible, and you're not making this about you, you know what I'm saying? You're not using it as an excuse to check in to see if he's still missing you, which is, some people do shit like that. You really seem like you're trying to do the right thing. And, listen, no good deed goes unpunished, as they say. So, I don't know if this will backfire. I don't know if this will open up a can of worms and all of a sudden he uses like you reaching out as a way to like vent to you. And I don't know, maybe you send a card or a text and he comes back with like just getting things off his chest. That's all possible. Like, so I'm making I don't know this guy, right? And he is going through a loss right now. But I think what's important if you decide to do this is to know in your heart why you're doing it. And that your intention is to pay your respect to someone that was in your life at a period of time and someone you cared about. And despite not wanting him in your life, you care about him. And it has been 2 years. It would maybe be a little insensitive for you to do it like, if you broke up a month or two ago, not knowing how he's feeling, but that's not the case. And so knowing that you don't know how he's going to react, like I just would decide what you're to do and then own that decision and just do it and like not regret, no matter how it plays out, not regret it. Like you can't second guess what you decide to do if it doesn't go the way you hope.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's part of the scary thing is it's just letting go of a lot of control and acknowledging that, it could go in a million different directions. So.
I mean, if you read my book and that's it, then my book would tell you not to. I do mention funerals in there. I mean, the book's called Don't Text Your Ex Happy Birthday. But like the premise is being like, it's been 2 years. You're not in his life. You're not responsible for his emotional well-being. And like, there's a world where it comes across as like cold that you didn't reach out. But like him thinking you're cold in the long term might be best for him, again, if he hasn't moved on, to in fact move on. And like, you can still pay your respects to his mom through a prayer or just like thinking of her and just, wishing her well. Just kind of in your mind. And that's going to be okay too. Knowing that if you didn't reach out to him, like he will be fine. And it doesn't really say anything about you or your relationship. And you really don't owe this person anything anymore. So I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think you're well past reaching out where it's like you're really making this moment about you because it has been so long.
No, I mean, I contemplated that too, almost like the idea of living amends and how I could pay it forward instead of reaching out, and if that might be a better idea instead of actually making contact.
I mean, I want you to recognize you and I have been talking on the phone for the better part of a half hour now. Clearly, you wrote into us talking about this. You clearly have invested a lot of emotional energy already, wondering if you should do that. And I think it's important that you recognize there's a greater chance that he hasn't thought about whether you are going to reach out at all. And he's just been focusing on the loss of his mom and all the other shit that's been going on in his life the past 2 years. And I would be willing to bet there's a greater chance that that's the case than he's been wondering why you haven't reached out. So recognize that and then make your decision. Because I don't want you to make this decision even based off of this guilt that you should.
Yeah, I'm taking that in.
It almost has to be a I want to say selfish act, but it really should be for you. You're not doing it for him. You are doing this for you. And that's okay because you think it's the right thing to do. And that's fine. And doing the right thing is a good thing to do. But is there a way to do the right thing without maybe reaching out? So once you recognize that maybe he hasn't thought about whether you have why you haven't reached out at all, and ultimately maybe doesn't care, or if he thought about it, maybe he'd care, but he hasn't thought about it, so it's not that big of a deal about it. And like maybe you're just spending way too much energy trying to be considerate to someone that you remember from 2 years ago. He could be a completely different person. He might not be. He has the same job. I get that. So it's not like But maybe, like you said, maybe having the same job is mostly solely around his mom and nothing else. To summarize, I don't think there's any wrong answer. I think you just got to go with what's in your heart, and you have to accept the outcome regardless of what that outcome is once you decide to do it. And if you do decide not to do it, own that decision and like let it go. Don't decide not to do it and then keep wondering if that was the right decision.
It's like you're reading my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just human nature.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good advice. I still don't know if I have like a firm exact point of direction, but I
don't know if you're gonna get one, and I think ultimately it's going to be a snap decision. And I think we could get off the phone and you could table it if you had the mental strength to do that, and like just set it aside and be like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just not going to think about it for a while. Sometimes like people will be like, oh, maybe you should sit on it for a while. And I'll be like, well, why? I'm either going to stop thinking about it and then I'll remember to think about it the next time you remind me, or I'm just going to decide now. Or sometimes I actually might give it some thought, I don't know if does that make sense to you? And I'll be like, well, I'll just decide now because I know that I'm not going to think about it between now and you bring it up to me next time. So I'll just make a decision now. If you actually think that like more time might serve you better, then maybe you have, but it sounds like you've already spent a lot of time debating this. Probably talked to a few friends, maybe talked to a therapist. Now you're talking to me. And even after all that, it's still unsure. And the reason why is because you don't know what's going on in his head. And none of us who you've talked to or yourself can predict the future or read his mind or know what's going on, And so it's all a bunch of like guesses.
That it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either you don't reach out, and if you don't reach out, you kind of say a prayer and just say, have a little ceremony in your head of like, say your goodbyes and wish him well in your mind. And like, I'm not that spiritual of a person, but I really feel like putting out positive energy into the universe is a good thing to do. And then you just accept that that was the decision that you made. And know that, trust, you are giving yourself a little too much credit by thinking, well, if I don't reach out, like, how's this going to affect him? He'll be fine. It really is for you. But if you do decide to reach out, again, that's okay. But you are doing it still for you, and you just have to accept that there is a chance it could trigger him. But again, you are still giving yourself way too much credit by assuming that he hasn't gotten over it yet. But there is a risk that you could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the humility check there. So, yeah, okay. This was helpful. I'm going to sit with this for a little bit.
If I were you, I would want to
burner.
If this matters to you at all. But if I were in your shoes, I would want to reach out. I would convince myself it was the right thing to do to reach out. But ultimately, I would know that I shouldn't, and then I would not.
I feel like that's where I've been most points in time. Like I almost reached out when his mom entered into hospice, and I like almost reached out. Then there have been several points throughout this process that I've been following along with, and I've kind of been doing that same progression.
Yeah. If you reach out of guilt, you're reaching out for you, not for him.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's reaching out of guilt, though. I think, as I articulated earlier, I genuinely would just want to relay like from one person to another, just that I am just genuinely so sorry. And that is just ultimately the only intention behind it.
Do you think that if you were to cross his mind and he were to ask himself if you felt remorse for the passing of his mom, that he would think that you did?
Do you mind rephrasing the question?
Well, it's like you said, I genuinely would want to reach out just to say, I'm sorry that this has happened.
Yeah.
And and I guess my question is like, do you have to say that for him to know that to be true? And I guess the question is, if you were to cross his mind and if he were to ask himself why you didn't reach out, would the most emotionally mature version of him probably say, you know what, I bet she does feel bad. I bet she would offer her condolences and probably hasn't reached out because of our past.
Yeah. I think there's a potential of that.
Yeah, me too.
I know he's also expressed hurt historically about me not reaching out, though. So it's
sure, but how recently?
No, this was
but I think that's him being in his feelings towards you. That's him having an immense amount of hope. That's him having expectations of you as his girlfriend or him wanting to be your girlfriend. So I get where that comes from, right? Like I said, if you had just broken up, like this would be a completely different conversation. But we have to give him the benefit of the doubt that he has moved on.
Yeah.
We don't know. And I'm guessing regardless of how he feels about you and his sadness, that deep down he still thinks you're a good person. And the person he did fall in love with, it's a blow to our egos to realize that people we care about maybe don't want to be with us. But like, I think he knows that you probably do feel sad and remorse, and that, yeah. My gut says don't reach out. I'm gonna close with that. But I don't think it's wrong if you do. But I think the fact that you are overthinking it as much as you are, you don't have a clear answer, and you haven't spoken with him in 2 years, I think you can be sad about the fact that she passed and be sad for his family. And I don't know if you really need to reach out for that to be acknowledged, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can trust that they know that you are sorry. And if you were to run into them, can say, I've been thinking a lot about them, and, out of respect, it makes sense why you didn't reach out, I guess is what my, type of thing. That there's a small chance that this could affect him in ways that you don't want to affect him, and you don't want to do that. And that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, that was helpful.
Okay. Sorry I couldn't be more helpful.
Right.
I know there's not a clear answer.
No, well, there's not a clear answer, but it was helpful just to hash it out a little bit more and talk through everything. So I appreciate the space.
Okay. My final thing is, if you aren't going to let it go, then just do it.
Okay.
All right. I mean, and maybe that'll be your answer. If you're still wondering after you decide not to do it, just send the fucking text and be done with it.
Okay.
Because that's just basically you saying, I'm just going to keep ruminating over this until it's done. But at some point you got to drop it. Right. And again, the humility, it's like maybe you're just not as important as you worry that you are in his life these days.
It's very possible. Yeah.
It's definitely possible. All right.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
Take care. Please let us know what you decide, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So, all right. Thanks for the time.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Whether you are struggling with work or money or finances or relationships, whether your schedule is packed with too many kids' activities, big projects, it doesn't matter. BetterHelp is here to help you dive into therapy. What I love so much about BetterHelp is that they make it super easy to just try. Just try, because we know how intimidating therapy can be. It's also more affordable than in-person therapy, and also very easy to, try different therapists. I've talked to a lot of people who are in therapy and they're just not getting what they need out of therapy. And listen, therapy is expensive. Like we know that is not a cheap thing. So make sure you're getting the most out of therapy. And with BetterHelp, if you feel like you are not connecting with your therapist, that's no problem. You can get a new one, because BetterHelp is working with more and more therapists every day, thousands of therapists every day. It's easy to sign up. Just go to BetterHelp.com. You answer a few questions about the type of therapy or things that you're struggling with and what you're looking for, and they will assign you to a mental health professional right away. And again, if you don't connect with that person, that's okay. You can try a new one until you find someone that you are feeling great about. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/VIALL. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/VIALL. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Grammarly. Hey, listen, we know how important it is to make sure that we limit or not have any typos or grammatical errors in our emails and our texts, especially at work, because listen, there is perception out there that if you can't spell correctly or punctuate correctly, then you are not as educated as you should be. And whether that's true or not, that doesn't matter. That's what people think. Listen, you have a limited time in your day, your work day, and so do your employees. So let Grammarly help you and your employees write more effective, faster, and efficient emails with less grammatical and spelling errors. And Grammarly is an AI writing partner that helps you get work done faster with high-quality writing for better projects, proposals, and presentations, and more. You write across multiple platforms and places during your workday, so delivering consistent, high-quality communication everywhere is key. Best of all, Grammarly works where you work, so you can get more done no matter what tools you use. use. We use Grammarly here at the Viall Files, and you should too with your team. Grammarly helps you write stronger and with more impact. 96% of Grammarly users report that Grammarly helps them craft more impactful writing, and Grammarly works across 500,000 different apps and websites. They also have tone suggestion. Listen, you can, just by having the wrong tone, tone is very important, especially when it comes to written communication. Like Grammarly help you make sure that you have the best tone possible. And listen, if you're like me, I have proofread my emails like 50 times and I'll still have errors. Let the AI technology that Grammarly offers do that for you. Let you spend more energy and time with what you're good at. Grammarly is the gold standard of responsible AI with 15 years of best-in-class communication, trusted by tens of millions of professionals and IT departments. Get AI writing support that works where you work. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. Again, that's Grammarly.com/podcast, Grammarly.com/podcast. Easier said, done. How's it going?
Doing well.
What's your name?
My name is Brittany. I'm 30 years old, and my neighbor flirts with me, but he will not ask me out.
Your neighbor down the hall, across the hall, 3 floors below, side by side. What do we see across the street on the same block?
So he's not near me, but we live in the same building.
Okay.
And it's a pretty big building, so I don't see him all the time, but like every couple weeks or so we'll bump into each other.
When you say flirts with you, what do you mean?
I guess this all kind of started a couple months ago. We met at the pool in the building, and we were talking for a pretty long time, like over an hour. Really good conversation. Talked about, I wouldn't say deep stuff, but just it wasn't surface level conversation. It was good, and we were vibing a lot, and we exchanged numbers. I wouldn't say it felt flirty at that point, but like definitely kind of going somewhere.
Why did you exchange numbers? Who asked for whose number?
Good question. So shout out to my friend, but she was also at the pool, and she was kind of there when we were all getting up to leave. Kind of like I was walking ahead of them, and she nudged him like, "Hey, are you going to get her number?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. I thought I'd just see her around." And she was like, No, you should get her number. So yeah, shout out to her. She's a good wing woman, but
I hate that for you. He didn't ask for your number. Your friend was playing matchmaker, and his initial response was, and then like to diffuse the situation, kind of was like, all right, fine, here's my number. And in that moment, any guy who was like really even half interested in asking you out would have been like, yeah, I'd love to get your number. But a guy who was like, that tells me like he doesn't. What's this guy look like? On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you throw him in there, superficially?
I would say like a 7.
Okay.
He's good looking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think he's generally comfortable around women? Do you think he gets approached a decent amount? Is he over 6 foot?
Yes.
Okay. Here, that's all I needed to know. So here is a man who's over 6 foot. So I don't need to know nothing more about him to know that he stands out to women generally his age. He's in a category that has less than 10% of all men. I don't even know how many men are over 6 foot, but it's a much smaller number than I think most women realize or hope. And as a result, he gets a decent amount of attention. So he's used to attention, I guess is my point of saying this. And he knows what it's like to be set up. He knows what it's like to be flirted with. He wasn't an idiot in that moment to know that your friend was like, hey, maybe you guys should get together, And his first response was like, I just thought we'd see each other around. And that is not a guy who, to me, sounds like he was hoping there would be a way to ask for your number, and he was a little bit nervous because he kind of wanted to ask you out. And even if he wasn't sure if he would follow through with it. To me, that was a guy who had like a nice conversation with a girl, really enjoyed it, didn't think too much of it, knows that you live in his building, thought he made a friend, someone he would say hi to in the halls if they ran into each other, if you guys saw each other at the pool, be like, hey, but like, definitely wasn't that interested in like taking it further than that and maybe asking you on a date or fuck around with you or whatever it was. You hate me.
Okay. I mean, there's more context.
Tell me the context.
I do think that you like kind of nailed it already.
Yeah, I'm happy. I think you should tell me the
after.
context because I'm guessing this context will be the difference between me knowing and in that moment, and that's all I needed to hear, and the conversations you have with your girlfriends about all the things that he could or said or did that like maybe it means X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, okay, sure. But at the end of the day, when he had the opportunity to give you his number, his first response was, but let's play. Let's have some fun. Like, give me the context.
Okay,
all right.
Let's do it. Yes. Okay. So he did text me immediately. He said, great conversation. We texted all through that evening, and he threw out like oh, I would invite you up, but I don't have any wine because I was drinking wine at the pool. And I said, no worries, let's grab a glass this week. And he said, for sure. And then the conversation kind of ended. Then he texted me the next day and just kind of like joking about something we talked about the day before. And then that was that. And I didn't hear from him for like a week and a half. So at that point, I just reached out to him. I was like, hey, any plans this weekend? He said, yeah, I'm going on a bachelor party. And we kind of just ended up talking about that for a bit. Again, like texted for a few hours. And at this point, like 8 o'clock p.m. rolls around and he's like, what are you doing right now? And I'm like, oh, just like at my house. And he's like, I'm about to watch a movie if you'd like to join, if you'd like to come up and join. So I, at that point, was like, I still don't really know this guy. Like, this is definitely a Netflix and chill type situation. And that's not what I want to do.
And in that moment, when he texts you, just so you know, the most likely explanation for that text was that he had your number, right? So in your mind, you're thinking, oh, well, my girlfriend suggested he give you his number. He did. He texted me. Great. To me, that's him being polite. And then you're probably thinking, well, I mean, he texted me and like, it's not what I want, but he did think about me. You're probably thinking, oh, like I was his first choice to Netflix and chill. And even though I didn't want to Netflix and chill, at least I was like his first choice, or I was a choice. And I think it's far more likely that in that moment, he desired companionship. Maybe not to have sex or maybe not to do anything, but like he was just a little bored and lonely. He felt, and I was comfortable with this person. And maybe he wasn't sure where he wanted to go. And you were like, oh, I can text her. You were the path of least resistance in that moment to him desiring some kind of companionship in that moment.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. All right. This is fun.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I declined. I told him I had some stuff to do for work. And
by the way, awesome job that you declined.
Maybe not a younger me, but we do learn.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Yeah. So I declined, and then he got a little short. He was just like, "LOL." Like that was his only response to me.
That was his response. LOL.
Yeah. Well. So his response, or my response, was like, "I have some work to do." He said, "That sucks." I kind of justified it by saying like, oh yeah, but I gave more context. I said like, I stopped working early today. And so like, I have to hop back on now. And that's when he was like, LOL. So just pretty short. Like, and then I started to think, is he offended? Or maybe he just didn't give a fuck. Like, he's like, okay.
There you go.
Like,
yeah.
So that was kind of the end of that. The conversation fizzled out. I asked him the next day for his Instagram. So then there's been like a little bit of correspondence here or there on Instagram.
I'm guessing really you asking for his Instagram was like, I don't know what to ask this guy. I want to keep the conversation going. I'll ask for his Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe we'll talk on there. I don't know. It seems like that's something that people do once they.
Well, yeah. And then that was the thing. Level. You were just more like, this is something this could be something I asked.
Exactly. Just like threw it out there.
My guess is also like the following day, you were second guessing yourself. Should I have gone over? You already said that you were wondering if he was offended. You were overthinking about you not going over there. And so you were like, hey, like.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking maybe I could like make something happen there, I guess.
Sure.
Like.
Yeah, you were fishing. You know. It's all right.
Yeah. Nothing really happened there though. Like we follow each other on Instagram. He likes my stuff. I like his stuff. That's kind of it. I see him in the building from time to time. We chit chat, we catch up. And I mean, that's about it on the context. And then I think I just did a lot of going back and forth in my mind and talking to my friends, and every person has a different opinion. Like some people would be agreeing more with you. And then other people are like, but he did this and he did that. Like, what does this mean? You know, trying to decipher what everything meant. And so for a while, I wanted to reach out one more time, but I just knew that if I did that and it didn't lead to anything, that I would be, you know, every time I saw him in the building, it'd be like, oh yeah, like I kind of showed my face there. And so I held back. I never reached out again, but that just left me with the open question of, you know, just was this like a if he wanted to, he would type situation, or was this something else? But
what could that something else be?
More like yeah. I mean, it could be a lot of things, but like probably not as realistic.
Those would all be just kind of guesses, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If he wanted to, he would. This is definitely if he wanted to, he would situation. Try not to take it all that personal. There may be a million reasons why, like I remember when I was single, I found a lot of reasons not to go out with people. And maybe that was me being guarded or closed off. And maybe there was some truth to that, or, and I might have thought they were pretty or thought they were nice or, but at the end of the day, there was something that told me like, I don't know. I just don't know if this is my person or whatever. For you to get what you want, the most likely scenario is that like maybe you would have gone on a couple dates and maybe it would have been quite lovely and maybe you would have a little sex and dated for a while and it could have most likely fizzled out or something. And then it would have been kind of awkward and you would have broke up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But like probably not your guy. And I'm just guessing that he was just for whatever reason able to kind of figure that out without like having to ask you out on a date. And it's really not and so like you just have to not really make it about like not like, it's hard because like, it's ultimately you feel a little bit rejected, your ego's triggered and, it sucks. But it might just be like he doesn't want to like fuck around with someone who's in his building, and it's just like, there is that. And again, the Netflix and chill, you're like, oh, why would he have asked me over to come and watch a movie? Because again, in that moment, all he was thinking about is companionship. And then after you said no, the next day, he was probably like, I'm glad she said no. He honestly probably jerked off and then was like, yeah, okay, I'm good. But, you've been bored before. Like we make some of the dumbest decisions in our life when we're bored. In fact, if you can recognize you're bored and then you're making a fairly even remotely big decision, chances are you should warn yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in his shoes. Like I've been bored and I've also, like you said, there's people we meet that like they're a great person. There's nothing glaringly wrong with them that you aren't feeling it and it's not personal. So
yeah, maybe you just like don't want the hassle or whatever. Maybe you're just like, like maybe your friend made it. Not that I don't want you to be like, oh, I can't believe my friend did this, but maybe your friend put too much pressure on like, like sometimes when I'm just saying when the ladies have a friend who's like, oh my God, you guys should date, it kind of makes you almost look a little needy.
Yeah, it could go both ways. I guess it depends on like the situation and the guy because sometimes they need that push, but yeah, sometimes it could just be a turn off.
But either way, I think you're going to be okay. And I think we just let this guy go and stop wondering why he hasn't reached out. If a guy wants to give you his number, he will give you his number. And if he needs a nudge from a friend, he definitely would have jumped at that opportunity. And he's like, oh, I thought we would just bump into each other. It's like, okay. And he texts almost certainly right away just because he's polite. And he's nice. He's nice. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
What did you think I was going to say?
Wasn't that big of an ego hit. Okay. Wow, it's like interesting being on this end of it. Like I'm always listening and I don't know, listening to your advice and like I usually agree with it but I just never really thought of what it would be like to be on the receiving end of it.
Hopefully it wasn't too harsh.
No, I would say I'm typically pretty aligned with the way you think about things. And it's the advice I give other people. It's just like never the advice I can give myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you're emotionally invested, You are invested in the outcome. And, that's why sometimes it's tough to get advice from friends because your friends are invested in the outcome too. They want what's best for you. They want to see you happy. I mean, I want to see you happy, but you know what I'm saying? I have no problem being like, I don't, you're going to be fine. So it's just seeing things a little clearly and with an unbiased lens, through an unbiased lens. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
How's dating otherwise?
Yeah. Kind of sucks. The typical. I don't like the apps and hard to meet people in person.
Sure. Do you live in a big city?
I do.
Okay.
Pretty big.
Yeah, just keep on. How old are you again?
30.
Okay. Great age. How old was he?
Yeah. He was 35.
Okay.
I will be fine. I think it's a matter of just like not giving up. And sometimes I want to give up and like go back to exes. So, because I'm like, oh, this is hard. And like that situation did kind of work, or that person did really love me. Like, is it really worth all of this?
I know the feeling, but you just got to stay patient and stay strong. And like, don't think of it as giving up rather than just maybe taking a break and taking a time out, And there's more than two choices than like muscling through the dating pool or going back to exes. You could just, be comfortable with being single without trying not to be for a moment, which I'm sure you've done before. But I think anytime we enter the dating pool and we get on the apps or whatever, and it feels exhausting, you feel fatigued, just pause. Even if it's for like a week, just be like, I'm just not going to think about dating for a while. I'm going to delete these apps. Maybe you download them again 2 weeks later. But like for a moment, you just need to like take a break a little bit because it is exhausting, and you're going to go through so many more, you're going to meet so many more guys that aren't your guy. And every time you meet a guy that's not your guy, like this guy, he's a nothing burger to you. You know what I'm saying? You had a conversation in the pool, you exchanged numbers, and it gave you a little bit of excitement and hope, which is nice, but ultimately you knew nothing about him. And in a weird way, you still feel rejected. So that takes a bit of an emotional toll on you. And that's hard. And that sucks. And the reality is like this guy doesn't really have an impact on your self-worth or who you are. And you don't have to like feel all that rejected over it. So just take a break from it. And then when you're over it, which you will be quickly, and just kind of get back out there. I know this is all very easy for me to say, but
no, I agree. I think I'm at peace with it. And I'm just glad I didn't go take the next step or action, because then like it actually would have been embarrassing. Whereas right now it's just
that's the thing. This is kind of a win.
Oh yeah, we texted a little bit. It's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing happens, you had a conversation. The last interaction you had is you turning him down. For all he knows, you're just like, honestly, this guy sucks. He's a fuckboy. I'm over this.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't follow up again. You can keep your head high. You don't have to feel like he rejected you. You just moved on. You just kind of called him out on his bullshit, So that's a win.
Agreed.
Well, good luck out there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Vessi is making amazing waterproof shoes, raincoats. The classic courtside sneaker. Is that what you're wearing right now, Derek? That's a cool sneaker. It's I have it as well. It's a cool classic white. You can pair it with jeans, shorts. You can wear it with suits. And the best part is they're comfortable and completely waterproof. So whether you are walking your dirty city or you're hiking or traveling, Vessi has you covered, keeping your feet dry and comfortable. And then there's the weekend sneaker, your go-to for any and everyday activity, whether it's the beach day or a city walk or casual hike or, again, maybe walking up a mountain. I don't care. Vessi has you covered. We love Vessi. We love that they're 100% waterproof, not water resistant. It's truly incredible. And they also have an amazing raincoat. Their westerly is very stylish. It does not look like a raincoat, not like one of those like ponchos. Very cool, very modern, very hip, and 100% waterproof. And if you're a boater, make sure you get those courtside classics. Again, you can dip your whole foot in it. Waterproof. Make the most of city life with vintage-style comfort sneakers, the Courtside Classic. Discover more fantastic styles at vessi.com/VIALL. Get your pair today with an automatic 15% off your first purchase at checkout and be ready to stay cool and dry. Caraway, as a home chef, I take pride in the tools that we use in our kitchen, and Caraway has been my partner in the kitchen for the past 4 years now. I am now going to get a Caraway set for the lake. Yeah, I need it. We don't have it at the lake. I need it at the lake, and because I only cook on Caraway, and I'm tired of cooking at the pots and pans that my parents brought to the lake. No. It's going to be a Caraway set for me. We got the stainless steel set. We have your classic ceramic set as well. Well, there's so many great things about Caraway. One, they are safe. They're toxic free. Caraway products are made without the toxic materials like the PFAs, the PTFEs, the PFOAs, and the other hard to pronounce chemicals. Also incredibly easy to clean. Their ceramic naturally slick surfaces mean minimal oil or butter for a slide off pan. And like Natalie, who absolutely is allergic to clean dishes, absolutely loves the Caraway. Over 65,000 people have given their Caraway 5 stars, and now it's time to try it for yourself. It's amazing. And they come with all different, colors and patterns. They look, they have a nice little like storage container set that it comes with. Also, if you want to like hang it, you have some of those kitchens where it's kind of fun to display your pots and pans. They look great. And just as a reminder, their internet famous cookware set comes with a saute pan, a fry pan, a Dutch oven, and a saucepan. Plus lids for all of them, a canvas lid holder, and a magnetic pan rack for storage. It's the ultimate kitchen setup and will save you $150 versus buying the items individually. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/VIALL10, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/VIALL10 or use code VIALL10 at checkout. And don't forget to mention that you heard about Caraway from us in their post-purchase survey. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Lily and I'm 30, and the guy I was dating told me the way that my mom passed was a turnoff.
The guy you were dating or the guy you are dating?
So we've since ended, but yeah.
Okay.
But I have follow-up questions, yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming it ended because of that.
Actually, I gave him another chance and then he re-ended it. He ended it after that and then re-ended it again. So
Well, he ended it
I guess
twice.
like yes, he did.
How did your mom pass?
She took her own life.
I'm very sorry about that.
It's okay. I mean, I've worked through it, so but it was like a lot of years ago. But
and how long were you dating this guy before you opened up to him about that?
A little bit over a month. And the reason I opened up about it was because he started opening up to me about his ex, who parent had died in a similar way. So basically what happened was like it had been going really well. It was very consistent and good communication. And then he like coached for me one night and we started getting like deeper. And he told me about his ex whose dad had passed in a similar way. Then he like said that they like moved in together and he supported her. And then she ended up cheating on him a ton. And then they obviously ended. But like then it was a lot. And so I thought, I don't normally share it that early on, but I felt like it was a good time to tell him like, oh, my mom had passed in a similar way because he had been through something like that. And I've never had like a poor reaction to it. And then once I told him, it was like a flip switch basically. And he like couldn't really look at me. He was like, I don't know if you should like spend the night. It was like a whole thing.
Really? So like you're in bed.
Yeah, he
or
said
it's
that
late at
I
night.
triggered him.
I mean, clearly he hasn't dealt with the fact that his girlfriend cheated on him.
Yeah, basically, yes. But what I got from it, and like I've processed everything in mine. Like my mom passed 7 years ago, and like I've worked through it, and I'm pretty open book about it. Like it comes up to most date, like on the first or second date, just the way I talk about my family that like my mom has passed. Like I don't go into detail, but like it just comes up, and I'm like okay to talk about it. But I just had never had that reaction. And like, I kind of was just like, we had been drinking. So I kind of gave him benefit of the doubt. And I was like, maybe, like he just needs a minute. Like maybe he hasn't had anybody else since his ex. And plus his ex, it was over 2 years ago. So I kind of felt like that had been a sufficient amount of time. He told me he went to therapy, but he like wouldn't even like look at me really. And then like I ended up like staying that night. And the next morning we woke up and he was like, I don't know what to say. I just like feel really weird about this. And I can't get out of this like weird feeling. And then he was like, but let's like take a breather and then we'll talk in a few days. And then we like talked after that. And he was like, okay, like, I don't know how I'm feeling, but like, let's just continue to see each other. And we did. And then like last week after I met a bunch of his friends and like, I thought it was going okay, he ended it again, basically.
Well, that's wild. So like just to recap, you're having a night. You've been dating for like a month. You're about to spend the night at his place. You're both had a few drinks. You go deep. You talk about past relationships. He's like, listen, my ex-girlfriend, it just so happened that her father, died by suicide or he took his own life. And like, she also really cheated on me. He clearly connected the dots with like she had some unresolved trauma and daddy issues or whatever. And he obviously connects the dots of why she cheated on him as so, her unresolved trauma, blah, blah, blah. And so he heard your story about your mom and then immediately saw you as someone who's obviously going to hurt him in the future because your mom died in a similar way as his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah. I mean, listen, what other questions do you have, I guess?
So I guess like my questions are, so like, I feel like I've never had this reaction and it was like it was honestly a horrible reaction. And like in the moment, it made me feel so bad about something that like I can't control and that has like happened to me. So I'm kind of worried about like moving forward, like how I'm going to be able to like tell other people I'm dating that. And I know this was like a crazy situation and stuff. And then my other question is more like, I'm 30, like, I know like you talk a lot about like dating and everything on this podcast. And like, I definitely have like a scarcity mindset. Like, I think maybe if I was 25 and somebody did this, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, I'm not going to date you again. But I really like, we connected on a lot of values. It was like a great communication that like I really liked. And I kind of like pushed through this and gave him another chance because of like those things. And I just like, I don't know, like basically like working through like scarcity mindset, like dating in your 30s. Because it's just, like you don't often connect with people. I've been lucky enough to find a decent amount of people that I connect with and go on dates with and stuff. But everything was going really well and this happened. And I like feel like I should have probably just ended it after this instead of giving him another chance. But I just felt like I wasn't able to.
Well, the good news is he did the hard work for you in that department. So there's that. So let's answer your first question first. One, I think you already know this and you don't need to say this, but your fears are ridiculous. This is all him. you even said it yourself. This has never happened to you before. You know what I'm saying? Like your mom passed 7 years ago. I don't know how many dates you've been on since then. Probably a handful. You probably even had a boyfriend squeezed inside there. I don't know, maybe. And no one's ever acted like this about your mom's passing. Yeah?
Yeah, no one's ever.
Right. So there's no reason to go down some delusional rabbit hole of playing into all your greatest fears and insecurities and wondering if this one guy out of all the other people you've interacted with, literally the thousands of people you've interacted with in the past 7 years, happens to be right about your mom's passing or you, right? That's nuts.
Yeah.
So let's just let those toxic thoughts go out the door. He clearly has not dealt with his girlfriend cheating on him. If I were talking to him, I would have been like, bro, what are you doing? You know, like there's a million reasons that people do, cheat, for example, right? And yeah, maybe the death of a parent plays a role. Daddy issues can play a role. There's a million other traumatic events that people can experience that cause them to act out in ways, one of which might be cheating, right? Or disconnect in ways, or self-sabotage relationships. And the fact that he clearly hasn't dealt with his girlfriend cheating on him and healed in a way that would, stop him from reacting this way to you and not be able to get out of the funk. The fact that he did what he did, slept on it, woke up and still was like, yeah, sorry, still feel the way I feel, should scare the shit out of him, because like what's really scary for him is that he's going to get into a relationship with someone and not be able to see the signals that he could be in a relationship that could do the same thing to him again. He's so fixated on connecting the dots between like suicide and what happened to him as if like, or just a parent dying. It's just like, there's a lot of people out there that have seemingly healthy relationships with parents who are still alive, but there may be some things in their past that they haven't dealt with that might cause them to act out and cheat or whatever, right? So like he has a lot to work through. He hasn't worked out through it. And you were probably never going to find out unless you found out the way you found out. And thank God. Because those unresolved issues that seem to be so traumatic for him to him act out this way were going to reveal themselves in other ways that you probably wouldn't like. It would have taken longer for you to figure out. Maybe he would have been more controlling. Maybe he would have been like just more paranoid. He would have justified some weird behaviors like going through your phone or some shit like that. Or, you would have been like, why are you doing this? And you would have figured out ways to forgive him and things like that. But it would take almost like 3 years to add up all these little things that he did that had been like, I don't know if you're my guy. And this all happened. And you got all the information you needed in one night. That was honestly, if you want to be like almost spiritual about it, that was your mom protecting you. That was your mom being like, you were going to like figure out, it was going to take you way longer than you needed to. So you know what? If my death and the way I pass is going to do anything good for you, it was going to help you with this one fucking guy.
Yeah, no, I like that look of it. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there were definitely red. I know it's that he wasn't over the ex for sure. Cause then like the next time we hung out, we tried to talk through it a little bit more and he ended up talking about his ex for like 45 minutes. And I was like, I don't care.
He didn't deal with it. I don't know how long he went to therapy or what he talked about in therapy, but he has not dealt with it. He has not accepted that it happened and that it's not his fault and that he just needs to move on. And, I don't know what is going on in his head, but that's why it happened. So you really don't go down that lane of those self-limiting beliefs and questioning yourself. As far as dating in general and why you took him back, why did I take him back? You're only 30. I don't know what to say. You're not that old. I understand as a man speaking to a woman, I don't have to deal with my biological clock, but nevertheless, you're still only 30. And now is not the time to start, I don't know if that episode came out when I talked about, I think it was this week's episode. I don't know if you listened to talking about the difference between want and need,
Yeah, it was good.
When we start confusing all the things that we want with the things that we need, we start making exceptions, we start settling, and you don't need a boyfriend right now. Being 30 isn't the reason to wake up and be like, all right, well, I guess I need to pick someone. Like, that's not what you need to do here. I understand getting a little anxious. I understand, when you go through a drought and there's like a 6 month, 8 month, or even a year period of like, I haven't liked anyone in a year. You just want to like someone. You just want to connect with someone. I get those instincts, right? But we still, like, even if this didn't happen with this guy, you would still, like, and I say this all the time and we always do it, but like 6 months isn't a long time. 1 month isn't a long time. 2 months isn't a long time. It takes time to get to know people. And I know we don't want to hear those things when we are 30 and we thought, it's just like, I don't want to waste 2 more years dating someone and have it not work out. I don't know what to tell you. That's life. The thing that's going to help you is to be willing to check in with yourself more. It's to be willing to slow down when you actually like someone, to like trust your instincts, to trust your body, to not make excuses for people, to not give people more chances than they deserve when they actually show you who they are. That's how you can do it. You can't predict the future, and you can't get someone today to promise they won't hurt you in 2 years, but you can read the signals that are shown to you early on and not ignore them.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like the past few guys I've like dated have just like all been very emotionally unavailable and really not over their exes, even though it had been significant amounts of time. And I'm like, is there a way to like weed those people out earlier? Like, am I just like ignoring signs? I don't feel like I am, but they're all like, I'm ready for a relationship. And then it's like something happens and it's like, okay, you're clearly not over your ex. Like,
what date are you usually talking about exes?
I mean, I would say like 5 or 6. It doesn't normally. And like if someone's bringing it up on a first date, then that's obviously like a red flag. I would say.
But you're right. Okay, 5 or 6 dates, right? That's pretty normal. Honestly, I think by 5 dates, you should have, if you're going to keep, if you've been on 5 dates and you have every intention to go on 5 more, you need to have the conversation about like exes a little bit. I'm not saying you have to go through each other's rosters and things like that, but like you should have an understanding of how their past relationships, if they've had any at all, how that has affected him. Have they dealt with heartbreak of any kind? Have they dealt with any type of loss? Those are reasonable questions. Like, what have you dealt with? If you've been on 5 dates and you hope to go on 5 more, you should have a desire to have some kind of deep conversation with someone, like you did with this guy after a month, right? Pretty normal. Well, when you have those conversations, just listen. If they weirdly bring up their ex, note it. If they talk about their ex a lot, ask some follow-up questions. Listen, you ask a guy if he's not over his ex, he's always going to deny it, especially the ones who are not over their ex. Yeah. But like, they will reveal themselves. Keep asking more questions about their ex. See if they take the bait. There's that.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone who's not over their ex will talk about their ex, even if it's with the girl they're dating. So just find little clever ways to bring it up. If, be like, a guy who's over their ex will be like, I don't know why you keep bringing up my ex. I don't know. I'm not I don't care what they're doing. You want to be careful a little bit, like you don't want to like,
don't want to be crazy. Yeah.
I'm sure you got good instincts, just trust your instincts. You shouldn't have taken this guy back. That was a fucked up thing to say.
No,
to you.
I know. I mean, my sister was like so mad, but yeah, no, I know I shouldn't have taken him back. And like, I just was like, if we could work through this, maybe we could be like stronger for it, even though I know it's crazy because it had only been a month, but it's hard to find a good connection with somebody. And when you like align on the like values and like interests and stuff.
Just a me question. When you say aligned on values, what do you mean?
I would say I've struggled with like, I have anxious attachment a little bit with it. And so for me, I really do value good communication with somebody and that it just, and like consistency. And he did that. He was very consistent. He gave good communication. He planned dates and like, I mean, that's also bare minimum at this point, but I liked that. I hadn't had that in a while. So it was like kind of refreshing. And I think like, and we got along really well. We had the same like sense of humor and like had similar interests and like, but I would say like the biggest thing for me recently is like somebody who's just consistent with communication and like dates is like what I want moving forward. And like, he did a lot of that. And that's, I think, why I fought for it a little bit more than I normally would.
Well, that's nice. And that is understandable. Listen, it's fun to meet people. It's fun to get excited about all the things that you liked about him, the planning dates and things like that. Great. Keep that, right? And then your next date, like it's, what to look for. But just because a guy is good at planning dates doesn't make him a great guy or doesn't make him he's a great boyfriend. It's been a month. So all you know about this guy is he's good at presenting as a really good dating option. That's all you know about him, that he knows how to make a pretty good first impression. You know, because in the first month, everyone's just kind of still making first impressions. All the dates they plan and the excitement and, you know, you got to wait a year and a half before they're really comfortable with you and they really know where they stand with you. And that's when people start being themselves. And I know that even sucks to hear because like, oh, fuck, man. But that's all the more reason why I think as just in general advice to everyone. That's like, I think we are, you know, the rise of situationships, right? People are investing all this time with people and never really getting to know them. You know, that's even scarier. Call someone your boyfriend or call someone your girlfriend, date them for 3 months. Fuck it, break up. Who cares? But we're so reluctant to do that, you know? Like you're waiting for the perfect scenario to see like, oh, let's just try it out. You know, like this guy, is he really your ex-boyfriend? Nah, it's some guy you fucking dated. You know, it doesn't matter if you call each other boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like just be willing to get to know people more. You know, give more people a shot to surprise you. You know, the guy who's not good at planning dates in the first month may end up being the better boyfriend. I don't know. Just be willing to like try different things out that you like. Prioritize certain things like character, how they treat people, how they talk about people behind their backs, things like that. You know, how they talk about women from your point of view would be something you want to very pay attention to early on. Does this guy sound like he hates women or, you know, or not, you know? Do they complain about their exes a lot, you know? Is it always someone else? You know, these are little things that like matter early on that I think a lot of people overlook. And you do just have to like hang out with people and get to know them before you really can get to know them.
Yeah, I know. And that's what's hard because I feel like a lot of times I want to just jump to the like next step just because of like, I guess, my age and friends all getting married and having babies and stuff like that. It's just
I get it, but you're not.
I'm still here dating.
You're not
like,
that old. Half your friends are going to get divorced. Those are just facts. And yeah, again, don't do the thing that I talked about in this week's episode where it's just like you're getting impatient. You keep saying you're 30 and now you are confusing what you want and what you need. And now you're more willing to settle. You taking it back was you settling because you got impatient. Yeah. You're like, oh, no. I just really liked having someone. And so you were willing to take anything, even a guy who disrespected the passing of your mother and disrespected you.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds really bad when you put it that way.
I'm not saying to make you feel bad. I just want you to learn going forward. No, I want you to be mindful that like that's you know, I think we are so unaware sometimes of how much we are willing to settle when we get impatient. And we have to be really mindful of when we feel impatient, what we are setting ourselves up for. And that is often disappointment and settling and bringing things that don't add value to our lives into our lives because we just want something. And we start telling ourselves that something is better than nothing.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're going to live a long life and you're only 30.
I know, only 30.
I promise you when you're 35, you'll take 30 real quick.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
And when you're 40, you'll take 35 real quick. And so it is saying from one older guy talking to someone who's much younger than him, I would stop feeling bad about being 30 and I would start enjoying it.
Okay, yeah, that's good advice.
It's a great decade and you're doing yourself no good by feeling sorry for yourself for being the age that you are.
Yeah.
And you're just downplaying your potential. And then, you know, then that just puts off bad energy too. You know, I don't even, you know, you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm 30. God, I'm just, all my other friends are, you know, half your friends are sick of their husbands already and are afraid to tell you that and really want to hear your stories about all the great sex you're having with random dudes.
No, yeah, I do think that too. Yeah. I mean, I've been having a good year dating and meeting people and finding connections. I think I just need to get out of my head a little bit with like settling and just like trying to like fast forward things a little bit in a relationship. And
how long have you been 30 for? When's your birthday?
It was May, so not that long.
Okay. So I think maybe you're still in the I just turned 30 funk. And I think this guy really rattled you. I think you need to start.
Yeah, he was younger too, so that was another thing that was not.
Okay, so let's just stop making bad decisions. You know, I'm just fucking with you. I mean, I'm not one to talk, but listen, younger men, it's you know, stop feeling sorry for yourself that you're 30. Start embracing where you're at in life. It's a great age. You're going to get a lot more out of being the age that you're at when you stop wishing you weren't.
Fair, yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you. This was helpful.
All right. I'm glad. What a weird dude. Yeah. I'd love for him to call in.
Yeah, right.
I've
I
never
just said
seen
on the
someone.
podcast.
She really fucked him up. That's for sure. So listen, and that's again, you have to remind yourself that and he won't be the next guy who experienced some trauma. So now you know what to maybe look for a little bit. Like everyone has a story. Everyone's been fucked up by someone else in the past. Whether it's been cheated on or being ghosted or maybe just your good old fashioned toxic relationship where there's a lot of breaking up and getting back together. There's a million reasons why people have trauma from past relationships that they haven't resolved or dealt with. Whoever you date next will have something they probably still need to work on a little bit or some version of that. And now you are more equipped to seeing that and asking the right questions and observing people's behavior than you were before.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to send in those questions at asknick@viallfiles.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.